So this is me in December last year, surprising my mum with Urdu. हर रोज मैं कैफे में आती मैं जाती और मैं उर्दू सीख रही थी. I'd spent the last 5 months learning in secret just to see the look on her face. And my family did not disappoint. That video was so much fun to make. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of work and time, but it's something I know I'll remember for the rest of my life. Since then though, I've actually not spoken that much Urdu, so I thought it would be fun to see just how much Urdu I can remember after 6 months of not speaking or studying. But for this experiment, I was gonna need some help. To everyone, I want you to meet Arooj. Arooj is my Urdu teacher. You guys have never met her, but when I was doing the surprise, I spent every single morning with her. The plan was to simply spend an hour a day for a week and see how much I could remember in that time. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored by Italki. Italki is where I met Arooj and Mary-san and so many other amazing teachers I've had over the years. I first used it back in 2020, and since then I've had 231 lessons, which is absolutely crazy. I was so excited when they reached out, not only because this is my first sponsored video, but also because this is one of the only apps that I genuinely learn from and love and use so much. So let me quickly tell you why Italki is the only app I've used for language speaking since I started my language learning journey. So when I first started learning languages, it was to surprise a friend with Japanese, but it became so painfully obvious that I wasn't even going to string a sentence together if I didn't practice the act of actually speaking. When I went to actually speak with my pen pal in person, I couldn't even string one sentence together. I was finding it really difficult. So at the time, I had been trying to speak by using pen pals that I'd find online, and although I have some of the loveliest memories with those pen pals, they didn't improve my speaking. And that's because if I dissect the time that I spent with my pen pals, I wasn't really speaking much of the language at all. And that's, I think, for 2 reasons. A, being that there's no context of an actual lesson, and B, being that the other person's English is usually a lot stronger than whatever language I was trying to learn at the time. Both of these reasons mean that we basically ended up spending a lot of time speaking in English about random things. But then I started using Italki and the game just completely changed. I suddenly had access to hundreds of native speakers that I could talk to at any time about any topic in any language. And Italki has over 150 languages, so whatever you're trying to learn, they have teachers for it. And what was even crazier was the prices I was seeing were super affordable. I'd been told by someone that their Japanese tutor costs £40 an hour. That was something that I could have never afforded at the time. But on Italki, I've had lessons for as little as £6, and they actually go as low as $5. And that's because all of the teachers on Italki are freelancers. A lot of the teachers on Italki have professional degrees, teaching qualifications, and I don't think I've ever had a teacher that wasn't patient, caring, and super uplifting. There's also no subscription fee with Italki, so whenever I wanted to start or stop a language learning project, it was as easy as that. For more info, check out the link in my description. You can also use my promo code JANNAH to get $5 free when you buy $10 in credits. But hurry, because the discounts only go to the first 50 users. Okay, so day one. Day one was an absolute breeze. I basically remembered every single, just kidding. It was definitely a bit of a shock. I was nervous going in and I knew that I would have forgotten a lot, but actually trying to speak after that amount of time was very humbling. Because surprise, surprise, if you don't speak a language for 6 months straight, you're not going to be at the same level that you left at. The thing is, as soon as I connected to the call, I couldn't stop smiling. I saw Arooj and I was just instantly happy. It was like seeing an old family friend that I hadn't in a while. We caught up all in Urdu, my broken Urdu. And during the conversation, I was surprised by how many simple words I had forgotten in Urdu. Things like siblings or busy, I was having to use the English word in the sentence. I was also a lot more slow than I thought I was going to be. I could string the sentence together, but it felt like it was taking longer to find the words. बहुत fun या क्या है? मज़े का था. बहुत मज़े का था. Surprisingly, day 2 was actually a lot better. I just felt this kind of flow and sync that I really didn't the day before. There were also some words and phrases that even just after using them the day before, I could remember. To be honest, I was really feeling this day. It was a good day. And I'm not sure where that suddenly came from after just one day, but I think the topic probably helped a lot. It was a nice like beginner friendly topic. सारे लोग वो अंग्रेजी इस्तेमाल कर सकती और वो समझ आते हैं और इसलिए मैं सोच रही हूँ कि अगर मैं UAE में रहना और रह लूँगी तो मैं सिर्फ अंग्रेज़ी इस्तेमाल करूँगी और मैं अरबी की नहीं सीखूँगी. Day 2 actually ended up being my favorite day in the entire week of learning. Speaking wise, I think I had the best flow and the most fun that day. In day 3, I think I ended up speaking a little bit less. One thing I noticed from this experiment was not only did I lose parts of the language, I also forgot fundamentals in language learning itself. So, for example, whenever I've learned a language, I always just throw myself in the deep end and start talking way before I'm ready. I look like a fool, but it's a tactic. My mindset has always been look stupid now to look cool later. And this is backed by the science too. So definitely check out Stephen Krashen's theory on language acquisition if you're interested in this point a bit more. But during this week, I found myself more hesitant than I usually am. And I think that's possibly a self-imposed pressure that I feel like, oh, I should be at a certain stage of fluency, but it's so counterintuitive. If I had just relaxed a bit more, I think I would have actually had a lot more conversational fluency. Yeah, there might have been more mistakes, but I would have been learning at a faster pace that way. Day 4 was also an interesting conversation. We ended up talking about Malala and I got out a few broken sentences. Day 5 and 6 were not too eventful, fun, but nothing special. And then day 7, the last day. This was a lovely day. We talked about a Hollywood movie that had come out, what's love got to do with it, and I think I finally got some of that rhythmic flow that I was chasing from day 2.
वो क्या नाम था? What's love got to do with it?
जी.
पाकिस्तानी ब्राइड थी, उसका पता है क्योंकि वो बहुत फेमस पाकिस्तानी एक्ट्रेस है वो.
वाकई मुझे नहीं पता, जब मैं देखती थी.
हाँ, उसका नाम सज्जल अली है, वो बहुत फेमस पाकिस्तानी एक्ट्रेस है वो लड़की.
और डायरेक्टर ये इमरान खान की पुरानी जी.
हाँ, जमाइमा है डायरेक्टर. वो जमाइमा को भी पाकिस्तान में बहुत लोग पसंद करते हैं. अभी तक इवन के इमरान खान से उसकी डिवोर्स हो गई है, लेकिन अभी भी उसको भाभी ही कहते हैं. और इस वजह से वो फिल्म पाकिस्तान में भी इतनी ज्यादा हिट होगी कि वो जमाइमा ने बनाई थी वो फिल्म. आपने देखी है ये फिल्म?
जी, मैं देखती थी. एक्साइटेड ये क्या है?
जोश.
मैंने
पुरजोश.
मैं बहुत पुरजोश थी क्योंकि हम हमारे सकाफत मैं नहीं पाकिस्तानी, मैं नहीं हूँ, लेकिन एशियन की सकाफत के बारे में कुछ मूवीज़ नहीं है, हॉलीवुड की फिल्म्स कुछ भी नहीं है. लेकिन जब मैं देखती थी मैं थोड़े से परेशान हो जाती, थोड़े से. सो ये अरेंज मैरिजेस पॉजिटिव मैसेज ये है, लेकिन हम सोच रही थी ये एक एशियन की नैरेटिव है और इसलिए वो अरेंज मैरिज कर लिया और उसके बाद वो खुश हो जाता, लेकिन ये सच नहीं है. मूवी में वो बहुत परेशान हो जाता जब वो अरेंज मैरिजेस होता और उसके बाद वो बचपन की दोस्त एक ब्रितानवी लड़की है और वो उसके साथ शादी करना चाहता. It wasn't perfect, I was making mistakes, but I definitely got into a bit more of a flow like I remember from the second day. It definitely wasn't perfect, but I don't think it ever will be. This was very much a beginner's attempt to regain a beginner's ability. But even then, I think I managed to surprise myself. This was so much more of a heartwarming and enjoyable experience than I thought it was going to be. And if there's one thing that you take away from this video, I want it to be that learning a language is so much more attainable and so much more enjoyable than you think it's going to be. I've only ever managed to achieve this beginner conversational fluency, and even then, it's so much fun to play around with. If we just shake off those nerves and relax a bit, we can have so much fun with this. Forget the fact that, we're not amazing at this language and we are making mistakes. We can have some of the best experiences ever. Some of my favourite language learning memories come literally just from my relationships with my teachers. When I wanted to give a presentation in Japanese to the Japan firm at my office, the first person I thought of was Mary-san, who I'd learnt Japanese with at the start of this experiment when I called Arooj for the first time after 6 months. I genuinely couldn't stop smiling, and I was smiling and laughing that entire hour, and I was so nervous for it. I was like, this hour is going to go so slowly, my Urdu is going to be so bad, and then I literally blinked and the lesson was gone, and I just smiled the whole time. My teachers on Italki have always encouraged and supported me, and that's so important for language learning. You have to be able to talk without a filter and not be scared of judgment or being embarrassed, because that's how you learn a language. And I Truly feel lucky to have met all of the amazing teachers that I've had over the years. The beginning stages of learning a language and getting to conversational fluency require you to make loads of mistakes and look silly. So when you have teachers that encourage and support you, you're really off to the races, and it's something that you really can't progress without. So if you guys want to learn a language, use my promo code JANNAH and click the link in the description to find your future teachers. Some tips for you guys for using the site and getting the best out of your experience. Firstly, always go to your lessons with a topic in mind. So have something that you've practiced and that you know you're pretty confident in before you go to the lesson. Second tip is that whenever you notice that you haven't spoken in a few minutes, always try and re-enter the conversation. So in order to increase your fluency, you have to be speaking. A really nice, easy, polite way to do this is to simply ask a question and then to sort of bounce back after whatever they've responded to your question. The third thing is to trial a few different teachers before you start. So something I did when I was learning Japanese was to do about 1 to 2 weeks of simply just trialing out teachers. So I would spend, I think, 2 half-an-hour slots every single day trialing out a new teacher. Teachers are going to have different personalities, different backgrounds, different styles of teaching, and so in order to find the best fit teacher, it's really important to try out a few different ones. Wishing you guys all the best in your language learning journeys. I really love hearing from you about your own language learning stories, so definitely leave me a comment down below. Can't wait to hear about how everything goes for you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.